Good day. I'm still busy evaluating the Art Canvas Factory's paint, and you can see it's a very cost-effective paint. And today I would like to look into color and the mixing thereof. So they've got a limited color range, and here you can see the pigments that are in their paint. What I'd like you to just take note of is that the phthalo green and the azo yellow both contain this titanium white in the mixture. So when we start mixing the colors, then this becomes an important fact. So color lightfastness is very important. So in my mind, I'm only prepared to sell art that's got a blue rule rating of 6 and higher, or a ASTM rating of 2 and 1. So you can see now these ratings have a prediction that those artworks will last longer than 50 years. So the lower light fastness, it can change color in perhaps 15 years or even lower. If you are just practicing as a student, this is not a problem, but if you want to sell your work commercially, well, it depends on person to person, but in my mind, I'm only comfortable selling art that's in this green range that lasts longer than 50 years. So now to determine light fastness, one can put it directly into the sun, and depending on whether it's summer or winter, it shows you how long you need to wait to test for color fastness. So I have placed Art Canvas Factory's paint in the sun, so we are still waiting for the light fastness test, but in the meantime we can at least look at the pigments and what is predicted from internet. Handprint has got very good light fastness information, and you can see all the pigments that Art Canvas Factory have selected are very light fast. You can also get good information on this website of Chemcric, and also I've got this handbook from Ray Smith, and also in there it shows that the light fastness of the Art Canvas Factory is excellent. So this is the blue rule rating, so the higher the number, the better. So you can see it's 7 and 8, so it's very light fast, and with the ACM method, the lower the number, the better. So ACM rating of 1 is very light fast, and I still find ACM rating of 2 to be still good, but higher than that it's not acceptable to me, but that's still a personal choice. When you look at the limited color range, it will have some limitations. So often we are using a lot of colors because sometimes you need the color to be transparent when you are glazing, and also we are using a variety of colors to obtain bright colors. So when we are mixing colors, we are preferring to mix colors that are biased towards each other to obtain that bright color. And so if you have a lot of colors, you've got a wider range of color possibilities. Now the advantage of a limited palette is that when you start mixing, colors will relate better to each other. So even though I do have many colors available in my possession, I don't use all of them on one painting. I always just choose a small selection of them, because a limited palette is advisable if you want to have better color harmony and unity. But now when it comes to paint, light fastness is more important to me than having a large range of colors. When it comes to the Iris paint, they've got a very large number of colors, but unfortunately with the cadmium red hue, it wasn't light fast. I've only got a very limited amount of their colors, so they are still in the process of being tested, because as I've shown you, it takes months to really test these colors for light fastness. So I'm still busy testing them, but I am concerned about the pigments. The biggest problem is I don't know what pigments are in the Iris paint. I have contacted them, but they didn't reply to me. So for me, that is a point of concern. Where in the case of the Art Canvas Factory, they've immediately given me all the information of the pigments, and that inspires confidence. So typically when I choose colors, I work with a split color wheel. So typically I have a cadmium red that's biased towards the orange or the yellow, and I've got a magenta that's biased towards purple or blue, and I've got a ultramarine blue that's biased towards purple and red, and I've got phthalo blue green shade that's biased towards lemon yellow and the green, and I've got lemon yellow that's biased towards the green and the blue, and I've got cadmium yellow that's biased towards orange and red. So over here you can see if you are mixing colors that are biased towards each other. So if you take cadmium yellow and cadmium red, they are biased towards the same secondary color, you can obtain a very bright orange. And if you are using a lemon yellow and a phthalo blue green, they are both biased towards the secondary color green, and you can obtain in that manner a bright green. And in the case of the ultramarine blue, it's biased towards the purple as well as the magenta is biased towards the purple. So the two colors you're mixing are biased towards the same secondary color, and you can then obtain a bright purple. So on the outer perimeter is just the pigments without the white mixed together. You can see you get a bright orange, a bright purple, and a bright green. And when you start mixing your secondary colors with white, you get the colors here shown in the middle. So I just want you to take note, when you take the bright orange and you mix it with white, then you get like a peachy color. So we know that when you mix red with white, you get pink, and that pink with the orange then gives this peachy color. And also when you mix this green with white, you get this type of color. Normally when I want to make my orange and my green lighter, I rather mix it with yellow. When it comes to purple, when I want to make it lighter, then I use white. But once again, it depends on what color you want. Sometimes you might want this type of minty color, and sometimes you want a more like a yellowish green. So it really depends on what you want, how you're going to mix it. Here are some other examples of a split palette. So you can see here this person have selected alizarin crimson, but do take note this is not a wonderful light fast color. So when you choose your split color wheel, then taking note of the color fastness of your colors are important. Here's another option for a split color wheel. They've used rose red and cerulean. Here's a more extensive one. You can see how the different pigments have a different biasedness. And here's another color wheel which shows all the pigments and how they are related to each other. So these are not mixtures, it's just pure pigments. So if you use pure pigments, they have a natural inclination to be biased towards some secondary color. I just want to explain now why I am using a split color wheel and why is it giving such bright colors. So if you have magenta, it's biased towards blue. So you can consider magenta being red with a little bit of blue. And if you take ultramarine blue, you can consider it as being blue with a little bit of red. So these pigments are pure pigments. It's not that they are a mixture of red and blue to get the magenta. It's a pure pigment. I'm just saying that the color is, you can consider it to be like this. It's not that they actually consist of those two, because it's just one pure pigment. But if we consider it to look like this, you can see now we only have two primaries. And that then yields a very bright purple. So now if you use colors that are not biased towards the secondary color you want to mix, so if you take for instance, it's cadmium red that's biased towards yellow, so you can consider this cadmium red to be red with a bit of yellow, and the phthalo blue green shade, you can consider it to be a blue with a little bit of yellow. Once again, the cadmium red and phthalo blue green shade are both pure pigments, I mean, there's just one, what I'm trying to say is that there's just one pigment in cadmium red, and there's just one pigment in phthalo blue. So it's not that we are sitting with two pigments mixed here together, phthalo blue. It's just one pigment. So what I'm saying here is just a way of thinking about it. So if we think about it, what these colors represent, if we had to mix them from primary colors, then we would have mixed them like this. So now if you consider, if we mix all of this together, you can see we are having red, yellow and blue. So we have all three primaries present. And if you are mixing three primaries together, then you typically end up with brown. So it will still be mostly purple because the red and the blue is dominant, but this bit of brown in your purple will give it a dull color. So that is why we are mixing primaries biased towards the color you are trying to mix to obtain the brightest colors. Because if you are choosing colors that are not biased towards each other, you end up with basically all three primary colors present, and that leads to dull colors. But once again, sometimes you want the dull colors, because if you listen to Nicholas Wilton, he'll say when you are painting, you want a loud conversation and a quiet conversation. So you do want some colors that are intense and very bright, and you also want some quiet conversation with some muted color. So it really depends on what you want. So a dull color is not something unwanted. It's just sometimes you want to mix the bright color, sometimes you want to mix the dull color. So we are just looking at this type of theory to enable you to choose your colors to mix whatever you are desiring to mix. So when you look at this color wheel, when you mix cadmium red with cadmium yellow, they are both biased towards orange. This orange do not contain any blue, and that's why it's bright. If you mix lemon yellow with phthalo blue green, you get a bright green because there are no red present in this mixture. And with magenta, ultramarine blue, you get a bright purple because no yellow are present over here. So here are the actual mixtures. So I just went through this theory. So when you see now what I obtained using the Old Canvas Factory's paints, then you understand why we are observing what we are observing. So here I've used the pyrrole red and the azo yellow. It doesn't look like these two colors have a bias towards any color, and we obtained a peachy color. But now when you look at the mixture of the azo yellow, it contains white, and like I've shown in my color wheel, you can see when I take the bright orange and I mix it with a bit of white, I also end up with a peachy color. The presence of white in the yellow leads to this peachy color, preventing one to get this bright orange. So here is a mixture of the cadmium red and cadmium yellow, and you can get this bright orange. So depending on how much yellow you add or what variation of orange you can get. So then I did some tests where I started mixing the Old Canvas Factory colors with the Dollaroni Kryla. So here I've used the pyrrole red from Old Canvas Factory, and I mixed it with a Kryla cadmium yellow, and a bright orange was obtained. So this just supports that the yellow of Old Canvas Factory is causing one not to get the bright orange. The white present in the azo yellow is causing this peachy color. And then over here I've got now cadmium red with the azo yellow from Old Canvas Factory, and when we mix it we also get this peachy color. So if you look at this result here on the far right, you can see it's the azo yellow from the Old Canvas Factory that's causing this peachy color. Okay, so here we have the ultramarine blue from Old Canvas Factory and the pyrrole red. Ultramarine blue, that particular pigment, can have quite a wide range of colors, going from a purplish blue to a greenish blue. And in this case, this blue looks like a primary blue. Don't really see any bias in it. And when we are mixing it, we are getting this rather dull purple. Now, in comparison with acrylic paint, I used the two colors that are biased towards each other, and a bright purple was obtained. So here we are having an example of where colors are mixed that's not biased towards the same secondary color. So the secondary color is purple, so this blue doesn't have a bias towards purple, it's got a bias towards green. And this red has got a bias towards orange, and it does not have a bias towards purple. And when you mix those two, you end up with, it looks like a grey. It's a nice grey, very neutral color. So, but you can see what happens if you are mixing colors that are not biased towards the same secondary color. So here we are mixing green. So here we have the ultramarine blue from Old Canvas Factory and the Ozo yellow, and it gives this muted green. Old Canvas Factory do have a green over here, and you can see what it looks like. And when you mix it with a yellow, you can get quite a nice green. Unfortunately, the white present in both the yellow and the phthalo green is causing this green not to be as bright as it could have been. Here we have the phthalo blue-green shade and the lemon yellow mixed together, and it gives a very bright yellow. And the more yellow is mixed into the green, the lighter the green looks like. And here is now an example when you mix colors that are not biased towards each other. So here we have ultramarine that is biased towards red, and we have lemon yellow that's biased towards green. We are wanting to mix green, so this ultramarine blue is the cause of the dull green, and you can see it's almost a khaki green. It looks quite similar to the dull green that we got from the ultramarine blue and the Ozo yellow from Old Canvas Factory. So in terms of glossiness versus matte, the Krala paint is semi-matte, the Iris is very glossy, the Old Canvas Factory's paint is very matte, the System 3 fluid is semi-glossy, and the Amsterdam paint is also semi-glossy. But now, glossiness is not a problem, whether it's matte or glossy, because it can be manipulated. You just add some medium to it, or what you could also do is after you've painted, you can spray it with a varnish that's either matte or glossy or satin. So I just want to show you over here. Here we've got the acrylic pouring medium, and you can see it made the Old Canvas Factory's paint glossy. And here we have the thick gloss gel medium. You can see it's very glossy, and mixed with the Old Canvas Factory's paint, it also made the paint glossy. And when the Old Canvas Factory's paint were mixed with the modeling paste, the paint remained matte. And the other advantage is that it really changes the viscosity of the paint. I've spoken about that in the previous video. So whether the paint has got a high viscosity or a low viscosity, it doesn't matter, because one can also modify that by using a particular medium. So I'm just going to show a few examples where I've just painted some random things, so you can get a feel for the range of colors that you can mix with the Old Canvas Factory's colors. So this is only Old Canvas Factory's colors, and here I've used black, yellow and white, red, yellow, black and white, green, blue, yellow, black and white from Old Canvas Factory. Green, blue, yellow and white, red, blue, black and white. All the colors except blue, all the colors, and here I've used all the colors except yellow. So I think that gives you an idea of the range of colors that are possible to mix. As I've said before, a limited range of colors is not a big problem, because it helps you and it forces you to mix a lot of colors, and resulting in more unity in your painting. But if you are wishing to have very bright colors, then you need to buy different pigments and to use a split color wheel. In general, I'd say the selection of pigments by Old Canvas Factory are good. It's a very good starting place if you are still a student practicing. From the pigments information that one can find on internet and in books, the selection of pigments are good in terms of color fastness. I would say the only limiting factor is the white in the green and the yellow, causing a bit of limitations in terms of the orange and the green. So you can't have a nice yellow green and a nice yellow orange. But in general, it's a paint that's very useful. So this concludes my mixing experiments. So I've put some swatches in the sun, so I need a couple of weeks, and I will report back on the experimental findings of the light fastness. But I am optimistic about the lightfastness test, that it will succeed because of the pigments that has been used by our canvas factory.